What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and I am back for another edition of MVP Sports Live right here on twitch.tv/MVP-vids as I hit my microphone there, or you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, MVP Sports. Usually this is where I would go into that I'm joined by my beautiful co-host Dave Oster, but Dave Oster is on vacation in Michigan this entire week. Him and the family were like, yo, we're going to Michigan. I said, have a good time. I will have your spot covered on the show so that he could join his vacation. And for two of these shows, I am going to be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the great Jake Neverman. Jake, how you doing this fine Monday evening / afternoon?
Oh, we're doing great. It's even better that your co-host is actually beautiful this time. You don't have to lie whenever you say that.
Little shots at Dave. Little shots at Dave. This is where Dave would be like, yo, Jake, how those Sixers doing?
How those Sixers right back in the Bulls didn't even play in the bubble. Come on, we're going right back at this.
Bulls didn't play in the bubble. Bulls are going to be with Jim Boylan for the foreseeable future. You can hit us with nearly anything about the Bulls at this point. But Jake, we got a jam-packed show talking about college football. You're on, so we're going deep dive into baseball. Something that we can do with you because you're obviously the baseball expert more than Dave and I. And we got many, many more topics planned on the show. But before we get into everything, little bit of housekeeping. Number one, if you're a sports fan, but you also got a nerdy side, MVP Entertainment is our second channel. That's where we have the gaming show. We have anything with games, movie, TV. You can check it out, MVP Entertainment. Go subscribe on YouTube right now. Also, like I said, if you're on Twitch, thank you for watching us live. But if you're on YouTube, you can catch the show on YouTube right after, or you can watch us live. If you're on YouTube, you're like, shit, I didn't know you guys did this live. Twitch.tv/MVP-vids. These will be podcast services eventually. Thank you guys for your patience on that one. And then also patreon.com/MVP-vids. If you want to get content early, if you want to be in voice chat for our Discord, if you would like to participate on the shows, that's how you do that, patreon.com/MVP-vids. But Jake, let's get into the show. And what we're starting off with today is college football, because over the weekend, the MAC said we're done. The MAC is like, we're not having football in 2020. No. And Bleacher Report was upset about, or not Bleacher Report, Barstool was upset about this. Big Cat at Barstool was upset about this. You had Scott Van Pelt was upset about this. No MACtion this year. And many people are saying, well, now it's just time until other D1 conferences follow the MAC in canceling the 2020 season because of the pandemic that we've been in. And Monday saw the first domino to fall. There was a conference call, I want to say, between all the Power 5 commissioners, SEC, Big 12, ACC, Pac-12, and the Big 10. And they all had this conversation about whether or not we're going to have football this year. And the Big 10 went ahead and won a vote. And in a 12-2 decision by their schools, the Big 10 has announced they are canceling the 2020 year. This went into a steamroll of different things, where the two that I'm going to read off both come from Twitter. One is from John Talley, and of course, I have it lined up, and then my computer or my tablet in front of me goes, no, Ricky, you ain't going to have that in front of you. But the two, if I'll pull them up really quickly, one is from Jay Talley on Twitter, John Talley, SEC Insider. He says, sources have said the SEC and ACC are the most aligned at this point. The whole thing could hinge on on if the Big 12 is with the Big 10. So the Big 10 and the Pac-12 look to be on one side. Pac-12 is going to vote tomorrow on Tuesday. They're on the side of we should not play. SEC and ACC are pretty much aligned with the we should play. We're going to go ahead and play. The Big 12 is kind of there in the middle. So, Jake, I'm just going to kick it off to you first because you're the only one on the show I can kick it to. Can't kick it to myself.
Can you not kick me, though?
But no, I will not kick you. I'm going to kick the ball to you. For you, when it comes to canceling college football this year, shouldn't it be a no-brainer that conferences should want to align with the Big Ten and the Pac-12? Because really that might be the only way to keep all of their, not just their student athletes, but all of their students safe.
I think it's a very broad question that has so many different entities to it. The whole thing that comes down to me is if the NCAA had a credible plan that they had put in place and that they had presented to all the conferences that could keep student athletes safe while also keeping the students safe back on the campus, even though some campuses are opening, some aren't. It's a whole confusing mess right now. I'm glad that Penn State actually can make one good decision in the last 20 years and making sure that they voted no, not to play in football this year. And I get why the SEC and the other conferences want to play. They're going to lose a ton of money if they don't play, and a lot of universities are going to hurt from it. And I get it, but at the same time, some of it has to happen unless there's a credible plan put forward. Because if you're going to put these student athletes at risk, then they put their family at risk. They put the coaches at risk. They put the other students on campus at risk. There's just too much going into it with the NCAA not having any credible plan so far. If the NCAA, okay, it goes back to the NCAA. They're not well organized. They're not well run, because we're about a month out from the season here, and teams are still voting if they want to play or not. And then I forget what school was it, Clemson, that had like 50.
It was Louisville had a little bit of an outbreak.
Cases or something like that. Like when they first went back to practice. Yeah, they had an outbreak.
So.
What? It's even with the NFL. It was one of the schools. I don't want to put it on the school without knowing.
The one that I know about that Dave and I covered was Louisville had a mini outbreak because one of its soccer players threw a party, and then that spread a little. It wasn't like 200, but there were people infected even because of that recently, and that wasn't even because of a football thing.
And I'd also say like this works a little bit more professional sports because you're working with grown men who are matured and they know how to handle themselves. When you're handling like with college football, you're gonna have freshmen and sophomore who are 18 and 19 years old and think they're still invincible, and they're not gonna follow the rules. If there's a party at the frat house on a Friday night, they're gonna go to it. They're not gonna not do it. That's the nature of this whole thing. There's people that if we could all collectively have gotten together and actually listened and set a bunch of rules, and we'd actually be in a lot better spot than we are now, and we could have college football. But as I see it now, I don't think there's a reason to play.
Well, and
money.
And Dave and I even talked about on Friday how the SEC had protocols in step where it's like coaches have to have masks or sleeves on while they're on the sidelines, while you're in timeouts. Players and everyone have to have those masks and sleeves on. The only time you don't is when you're getting ready to play. You can pull it down, which I never got, because it's like, unless you have the face mask that is going to have that covering on it, how do you protect yourself from that?
Football is the worst sport for all of this.
Yeah.
There's too many people, there's too much contact, and there's just no control. And like Pat just said, if conferences try to continue to play, they're sending a message that they value money over safety.
Exactly.
And that's all this comes down to. If they were worried about player safety, the season would have already been canceled.
Well, and that's why for me, the thing I was going to bring up is I had a problem over the weekend with one person, and now that's kind of formed into me having a problem with another person. Was the first person I had a problem with was Joel Klatt at Fox Sports, where he tweeted in response to the Trevor Lawrence tweet saying, we want to play. And I saw that and I'm like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Like, the tweet that he said was that, the media is trying to put fear and scare everybody, and that, I commend Trevor Lawrence for wanting to play. It's like, no, we're not trying to spread fear. We just know what we're dealing with. And I'm saying we because of, I know how it is with us on this show. We're not throwing out there like we don't know anything. We've been in this pandemic since March. And it's that people don't want to do the right thing and don't want to care for one another, of why we're still in this mess. And then over the weekend, as I thought about it and got to this moment, I have a problem with Trevor Lawrence, period. And the reason why I say that is, so Trevor Lawrence put out a tweet that said #WeWantToPlay with this picture. It says, hashtag we are united and hashtag we want to play. It's got all the conferences at the top. And it says, we all want to play football this season. Establish universal mandated health and safety procedures and protocols to protect college athletes against COVID-19 among all conferences throughout the NCAA. Give players the opportunity to opt out and respect their decision. Guarantee eligibility whether a player chooses to play or not. Use your voices to establish open communication, trust between players and officials. Ultimately create a college football players association, representative of the players of all Power 5 conferences. And there's a part of me that goes, okay, what you're saying here is good, but I don't like, it goes back to what you said, Jake. We're not dealing with the NBA. We're not dealing with the NHL. Like, Adam Silver isn't the head of NCAA, and college sports is very different than, let's say, the NBA, because the NBA has done a beautiful job. So is the NHL. I got to tip my hat to them too, because both the NBA and the NHL have not had any positive cases since we have restarted those seasons. I just don't know how colleges put in the mandated procedures and protocols that you want in place, because like Dave and I have talked about before, what you're going to tell college players, like, hey, you can't go to class? Are you going to have college athlete only classes where it's like the football team is in a class and it's like, that's their like resources, even there, like the teachers that are in those classes. You can't have a teacher then that's teaching the football class and that teacher can't then teach another class, because then you're contaminating two different populations of the school. I have a feeling that Trevor Lawrence should be the one. And I say this because he's, whether he likes it or not, he's the face of college football. Whether you want that or not, face of college football, you're probably going to be the number 1 overall pick this upcoming season or after the season in the NFL. I just, maybe it's because I disagree with the decision, and I feel like he should have been the one to say, you know what, we all want to play, but right now ain't the right time. Like, maybe that's why I'm a little, I'll say I'm a little upset with Trevor Lawrence.
I think it's too late. Like, if you wanted to play, we've been in this pandemic since mid-March. The NFL also waited too long, but the NFL now actually seems like it has its league in a pretty good position to play the season, just with all the regulations, everything they put themselves in. The NCAA is supposed to start, is it the end of this month or next month? It's
usually the end of August. It's Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend, whichever one is in the fall.
So maximum we're 3 weeks out from the season. You have no plan in place. So at minimum, you have to put people in quarantine for 2 weeks. That is, if you wanted to start this whole thing and actually play, you'd have to put people in quarantine for 2 weeks. That gives them about 5 days to get ready for the first game of the season. It's not going to work. And I'm pretty sure that some conferences are going to play this season and are going to try to play at least. It's just, it baffles my mind. And I get that money's an issue, but when you're making that much money every single year, 1 year should not, and in some schools it is going to hurt, and I get it, but that's where the government should step in and they should offer to help out, which they have been doing for a lot of people in the country. But it's too late. And if you wanted to play, you should have spoke up 2-3 months ago, and we knew we were here, and nobody put any plan in place. And it's too late at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the other people that have spoke out, and I'm completely, like, I am happy that I am not a fan of this school, because I would be upset if I was a fan of this school, both at my coach and the institution that I'm a fan of. But Nebraska was one of the 2 teams that said no to the not playing, that they want to play. And this is a quote from head coach of Nebraska football, Scott Frost. He said, "Our university is committed to playing no matter what that looks like and how that looks. We want to play no matter who it is or where it is." The article I'm looking at, Pro Football Talk, goes on to say Nebraska, of course, can't play unless it has other teams to play against, and there may not be any other Big Ten schools fielding football teams this year, but in this most unusual of years, it's possible that some combination of football schools could decide to play a fall season outside of their traditional conferences, and that Nebraska would play even if the Big Ten does not. How can a school and how could a coach, like, this is the thing that bothers me. How can a coach put his players in that kind of a danger? Like, to me, I think of it to where, let's say, I don't think of it if I was a player. I'm thinking about it, let's say I was the father of one of those players, because usually you hear football players, especially college players, like, oh, the football team is like an extension of my family. Like, coach is my father away from home. And during the recruiting, how many times you hear parents go, well, the thing that sold me on this university was that I believed that coach would be taking care of my child when they're not at home. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm against playing the season. Maybe it's because that's what my mind is fueled by or clouded by, some people may think. But like, if I was a father, I would be like, well, this asshat doesn't have my kids' best interest in mind. Like, but how can a school...
I'm sorry, but do like those parents have the best interest at the same time? Like Trevor Lawrence's parents, Trevor Lawrence should be the one who doesn't want to play. Yeah, he is the number one overall pick. If he doesn't play,
and this shows how regional college football is, because
100%. It's all the South.
Of course, it's like of course the SEC wants to play. Of course, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, the more liberal areas of the country, don't want to play football. Like. And that's another thing that is, it's hard to get a football season going when you have all of your sport is split up regionally. Like, it's impossible, because some conferences are going to want to play, some aren't. And then you got the Big 12 that's kind of mixed, where they've got half of Texas. So I'm sure the Big 12 will side with the SEC and the ACC, but we never know.
I agree. I just think there should not be sports if there's responsible adults involved in this, but the problem is money clouds judgment. And unfortunately, I think that all the Central and all the Southern conferences are going to try to play a season regardless of what happens. I don't know what else to say. I think and the only reason that a lot of the commissioners want to play is because they don't want to get threatened by the teams in the universities. Yeah. If they cancel the season, and they don't want to lose their jobs, because they are in charge of those universities and they control.
Well, and I mean, the last thing I'll say too is, because I kind of feel like we're at the end of this discussion before we start talking and repeating ourselves. But the other thing that plays into this too is, in every other sport except for college, your athletes are paid. So like for the NFL, hey, I can opt out and I've got this insurance that makes sure I'm still going to be making my living. For college football, they might have an opt-out period, but it's like, okay, if I opt out, am I going to keep my scholarship? Am I going to basically have to either come up with the funds to be in school on my own? Am I going to have to go home and take a complete year off? Like, you have so many different issues, plus with how politicized college sports is in the first place. Like, scholarships alone, people are divided, where some say that, like, oh, it's good that they're getting a full ride, but then there's others that are like, oh, well, they shouldn't get a full ride just for throwing a dang ball around, when there's so many other people out there that have to kind of pay their own way for schooling. So it's like, you have that issue also that you need to tackle. So like, I feel that there's too many issues in trying to get a football season started this year, and that they should just cancel it. You don't lose a year of eligibility. You don't lose your scholarship, so you can still attend classes this year, and then restart everything next year. And I'm sorry, like, if you're a senior, I would have it set forward to where even if you're going to graduate in the fall, you could come back and play college football and have a year of eligibility. But at the same time, how would that fuck up recruiting by having all these recruits come in? And that, yet again, that is what we're dealing with when it comes to college sports. So that's where we're kind of going to leave that one. And we're going to go from college football to pro football. And about 5 minutes before we ended the show last week, there was huge football news that kind of rocked rocked the football world, because whenever something like this happens,
no pun intended,
it always does. Yeah, no pun intended. But we had on Friday, Derrius Guice was released from the Washington football team. And I'm going to pull up the Adam Schefter tweet right now that I have. So in this statement, Washington says, on Thursday, we learned of a potential domestic violence related incident involving Derrius Guice. We immediately alerted the NFL, or the NFL, and have continued to work with them during this process. We then met with Derrius to inform him that he was excused from all team activities pending a review of this matter. This afternoon, we learned that there were multiple charges filed against Derrius. Upon review of the nature and these charges, and following an internal discussion, we have decided to release Derrius immediately. And the thing I will say about this before I pass it off to you, Jake, is kudos to the Washington football team. And usually we don't say this that much when it comes to Dan Snyder and his organization, but this was the right decision, because I don't care if you're sitting there going, well, he'll get another job, he shouldn't be in the NFL. We'll probably mention that a little later, but at right now, there needs to be, Derrius needs help. He needs help, and focusing on football is not how you get that help. So kudos to Washington for releasing him. Maybe now he can face what he's going to face, if he is guilty of it, face the punishments that come from it, and then hopefully he can learn from this and become a better person and not be a scumbag like domestic violence abusers are. But I will let you give your opinion now, Jake.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this has become a common occurrence now in professional sports and mostly in the NFL.
It started with Ray Rice, right? He was really the big one.
Ironically, Derrius Guice's player comparison coming out of college was Ray Rice, so he did live up to that at least.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus. But it really is truly unfortunate. He is a truly talented player who just couldn't overcome injuries, and to see that he's actually a piece of shit is kind of sucks. And that is if he's guilty. He's not guilty until he's proven guilty. He did turn himself in, so that kind of solves it for you there. But like I said, it's become too much of a common occurrence, and it's almost it's a negative part of today's culture that this is just so common. And just I saw this on my phone, and I was just like, nope, another one. I feel like it's yearly that some player that we know happens to every single year, and it's just sad to see, especially with young players who have a lot of potential. And hopefully, like you said, he gets the help he needs, and hopefully he comes back a better person. He'll definitely put on the face that he became a better person, and I have no doubt that this will end in a civil lawsuit, and he'll pay her money, and it'll go away, and he'll probably get it. Like you said, he'll probably get another job in the NFL, which is, I hope, is not what happens. I hope he goes and he gets help, and he goes to therapy, and he reconciles with whoever it was. I don't know if it was his girlfriend, his wife, whatever it was. I don't know that, but like I said, it's just sad that this has become so common that it kind of just rubs off the shoulder whenever you hear it.
Yeah, so according to another article, this is ESPN, Washington released him Friday, the same day he was arrested on 3 counts of domestic violence stemming from incidents in February, March, and April, according to the Loudoun County Sheriff's Department. Obviously, Ron Rivera went into quotes that it was a tough but necessary decision. The other thing with Derrius is, and this is kind of on the side of will he get a job again, is he's been a player that has had injury histories. He's gotten he had an injury in college, kept him out his rookie year. He had another injury in the NFL. At this point now with this, I wonder if he will get another job. And I know that's probably not the main point of this. It should be what he did, and that he needs help for what he did so that he can become a better person and learn from this. Because the comparison I look at is Joe Mixon. We kind of, in one of our watch-alongs, I think it was on Friday, Joe Mixon came up where that had footage of you seeing Joe Mixon completely knock out a woman in a restaurant. And I remember when it happened, I was like, Joe Mixon shouldn't be drafted. Fuck Joe Mixon. He's a scumbag. But since becoming a member of the NFL, hasn't had an incident and has seemed like he's learned from his mistakes. I don't know if he has. I personally still don't like Joe Mixon, just because of that, and that's just who I am. It's kind of like the once a cheater, always a cheater thing. That's kind of how I feel with this because of how strongly I am against like domestic violence and guys who choose to treat women like that. But I think the end of this, and this is like a short one we're bringing up, is I hope Derrius gets the help and doesn't just this completely blows over and then it's like, okay, back to football, because that's not what's going to help Derrius. Derrius needs help, and then he can come back to football after he learns from his mistakes and becomes a better person. But Jake, let's move on. The thing we can talk about in depth, because you're on the show, is baseball. A lot of baseball has been going on, and we're going to kind of do like a quarter season kind of review, kind of like some hot topics here or there with the baseball season. But the first kind of thing that I want to talk about with us being a quarter of the way through the season are the Houston Astros, because at the beginning of the year, we knew they were going to have issues. We knew teams were going to target them. Manfred even came out and said, hey, if you throw at him, if you do this, the punishments are going to be harsh. And we knew that Dusty was going to have to be the guy to, hey, I'm going to really have to defend my players out there. And we've seen that from Dusty Baker. He has not been a silent manager. He has been barking at umps. He has been barking to the field to protect his guys. We've seen, obviously, the Joe Kelly situation that happened where Kelly got an 8-game suspension for that one. And now over the weekend, we saw an incident between Roman Laureano of the A's and the Astros hitting coach, who this was after Dusty Baker had been thrown out earlier in the game for arguing balls and strikes. The thing I want to ask you, Jake, is you can give your thoughts on the Laureano thing, because that was a big thing. I just think that the Astros are in the wrong there, especially the hitting coach. Like, how do you bark at somebody and then you're not a part of the fight at all? And why are you even barking at the A's player that's on first base? That puzzled me.
I agree.
But should the Stros, I feel like the question, I couldn't come up with this. I didn't know how to phrase it. But basically what I'm going to say is, how much rougher and longer is this season going to feel for the Astros? Because this ain't going to be the last incident for Houston.
No, and I think once fans are hopefully allowed at some point next year in 2021, it is going to continue. Like this is not going to go away. The Astros won a World Series cheating. Like, this is not going to go away. And I do need to say that Ramon Laureano just put out a quote, and he said he was asked about charging Alex Cintron. He said, "I regret charging him because he's a loser." So that's another great quote from it. But I mean, it's been made even worse because they haven't been playing good baseball. They've lost a lot of recent games. They've fallen to third in the division, which they'll still make the playoffs. They're too talented of a team not to make the playoffs. But a lot of their spark plugs are missing right now, with guys such like Bregman and Jose Altuve hitting poor so far in the season. Justin Verlander obviously getting injured. We hope he can come back soon, hopefully at the end of the year. And then obviously Garrett Cole leaving them. They're depleted in their bullpen. They're depleted in their starting rotation, which has made it just that much worse. And Jose Altuve, you hate to see it. He's hitting 182 so far, and he made 3 errors thrown in one game. Like,
he says sarcastically.
It is just such it is so good watching the karma hit them right now. And they'll still be a playoff team. Like I said, they're in third right now behind the Rangers and the Athletics. The Athletics are playing amazing baseball right now. I think they just swept the Astros. And I mean, they might take that division, but again, with the new playoff rules, which, I mean, I've never gotten to say my say on, they're dumb. 2 teams from each division making it, and then obviously the two more teams with the best records making it. it's just, this regular season is almost meaningless, which is funny.
So it's going to be what? That's 8
16
total team, So it's basically 6 teams plus the 2 wild card teams.
Yep, it's over half the league making the playoffs. So again, it's just kind of dumb to me. Especially for good teams, like they're getting screwed. They have to play more series in the playoffs. It's more of a chance for somebody to get hurt. Like it's a whole thing. But again, Rob Manfred, great commissioner. Just absolutely on top of his game. But again, like the Astros, like I said,
he says sarcastically for people who can't read sarcasm.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say, if Laureano gets suspended longer than the hitting coach does, that's an absolute joke. Yeah, that hitting coach instigated everything, and then right when he got charged, he walked behind 4 players. Like that is that's the definition of a bitch move.
Well, I feel like this entire Astros situation from the beginning has kind of showed baseball the over existing problem that it's defended for so long. For so long in baseball, we've talked about the unwritten rules of baseball, and basically where it's like the league doesn't have to come down with judgment. We're going to police it on our own. For example, how many times throughout my childhood in the 90s and 2000s did I see guys getting beamed for celebrate? Oh, he flipped his bat. Oh, he watched the home run for too long, so I beamed him the next time he was up, because there's these unwritten rules. Well, now there's a team that actually goes ahead and cheats. Yep. And now all of a sudden baseball's like, well, you can't police it on your own. And the baseball players out there are like, well, fuck yeah, we can't. Like, you ain't going to tell us what to do. You've created this problem by letting us do it for so long. You've let us be our own enforcers. You can't just say, nope, you can't do it, and allow the rest of the baseball world to go, all right, Rob, whatever you say.
It goes back to the point they gave players immunity, which basically means the players got away with cheating. Jose Altuve stole an MVP from Aaron Judge, and the Astros stole World Series from the Yankees or the Dodgers, like whichever one would have won.
But it's just, there's even Cub fans, I need to think Pat's one of them, that feel like the Astros stole one away from us, because we could have won that Dodgers series, and then we would have lost against the Astros.
But you didn't beat the Dodgers. Yeah, the difference is the Dodgers made the World Series and lost to them, and the Yankees lost to the Astros in 7 games.
The Astros are assholes. That's basically all we're saying.
And we can all agree on that. We can all agree the Astros are assholes. But and the Dusty Baker thing, I get it. You have to defend your players, and I do think Bregman got beamed in the head by Joe Kelly. That was a bit much. He shouldn't be throwing at somebody's head. If you're going to hit a player, hit him in the back, hit him in the stomach, hit him in the legs.
Did you like the conspiracy theories that came out about Joe Kelly, where it's like,
I don't know if he did that on purpose.
Well, no, there's people that think he did because of the video earlier in quarantine where he lost a changeup at the same spot and broke his window. Yeah, so people are like, "Oh shit, he was practicing it in quarantine."
Joe Kelly is a notoriously wild pitcher, and he loses control of his fastball. And if you watch that night, he didn't have his fastball. Do I think he meant to throw at Bregman? Yes. Do I think he meant to throw it at his head? No. I think he meant to hit him in the back. But Joe Kelly is a psycho, so nobody knows. Again, and that's another suspension. He got suspended 8 games, and he hit him with a curveball. That's a joke. I mean, Rob Manfred is just cuddling with the Astros and trying to make it right. And it's complete. You just have to listen, they cheated. They didn't get suspended. Stuff's going to happen. And I get suspending players, but suspending a guy 8 games in a 60-game season, that's a bit much.
Well, it kind of makes me think back to, and you may think this is right or wrong, but it happens, where I just think back to like when I was in school, and I'm not talking about bullying. Bullying is a different thing. But if, let's say, a kid did something that was really, really, really bad. Like, let's say another kid was bullying another kid and he got in trouble from the school. That's fine and all. But at the same time, there was a little bit of like, we called it playground justice, where it's like, okay, you got that. Now you got to get like what's coming from the rest of the kids on the playground, because what you did was not right. And we want to show you that like we're unhappy with you. That's basically what's happening here. And you're not going to stop it. There will be another team that throws at the Astros. There will be another team that barks at the Astros. And
Every team.
the best thing the Astros can do, in my opinion, and it may be hard because when I've never had a 92-mile-an-hour fastball thrown at me, I've never been hit by a 92-mile-an-hour fastball. I'm assuming it fucking hurts. But
Hurts
I think
more when you don't know what's coming.
I think you just have to bite your tongue. You got to bite your tongue and be like, hey, we just got to get through this season. Get through this season and hope it all blows over. But like you said, once fans are back, then fans are going to be like, well, we got to let you know how we feel about it. This could be something that sticks with the Astros for a long time before it ever goes away.
Well, the problem is they don't play the Yankees this year. Just wait until they have to go to New York. I was going to go. I had tickets to that series to go at the end of, I think it was the end of this month, to go and watch them come to the Bronx. That's going to be awful. And I can say this as a Yankee fan, we feel robbed. Like that was our title. 2017 was our title to win. We won every home game and we lost every road game, ironically. And it's just, it's gonna, and Judge still feels like he should have won that MVP, which he should have won the MVP even without cheating. Like when the Astros cheated, like he was still just better than Jose Altuve that year. Yeah, but I get that's a whole nother rant. This whole thing with the Astros though is they haven't been playing well. A lot of their players have been getting hurt, and that's not due to them getting hit or anything like that. But we knew that Bregman and Correa and Altuve are all soft. We knew that mentally they aren't. They're just soft. Like they were yelling and barking at players. Like when Carlos Correa in spring training was out there telling people to shut up if they don't know the facts, and the facts had already come out at that point. It's a whole thing. The Astros are soft as an organization. Their owner's a joke. It's all a joke over there in Houston.
And I just thought something right now, Jake. I'm going to make a little change to our rundown sheet because of like our time and everything. We're just going to do baseball, baseball, wet boys, and then our college basketball thing. The basketball topic we can push to a later date because I've been liking this baseball topic. And I want to move on into the next one, which is, so ESPN had a cover story about Fernando Tatis. If you have not read it, go ahead and read it because it's a great read by, I think it was Jeff Passan at ESPN who wrote that. It's a great read over there. But basically the question I want to ask about Tatis, because they were saying like how great he is and that he's bringing joy back to baseball. And you watch him on the field and he's an amazing talent, even how young he is. I didn't want to spin this in a negative light because my first thought was like, well, are the Padres going to waste his talent? Like, is he going to be one that the Padres never get to the playoffs? He decides to leave or they trade him. I didn't want to go that route. The route I think I want to go with this one is basically how important is this year for the Padres and Tatis? Because you look at it based on the new playoff rules, it would be the Braves and Marlins would be in, the Cubs and Brewers would be in, the Rockies and Dodgers would be in, and then the Padres would be the second wildcard team. No, they'd be the first one. Yeah, they'd be the first wildcard team along with the Mets, I want to say. Yeah, the Mets.
It's early, it don't matter.
So they would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. How important is it that Tatis and the Padres make the playoffs in this shortened season?
Well, it's pretty interesting because this was thought to be the year that they were a year away. Like next year was supposed to be their year. They went out and they got Tommy Pham. They are putting a lot of stock into their young pitching with Lamet and Paddock and Lucchesi, and Garrett Richards is somewhat of a veteran, but I mean they still need to work on their rotation. Their bullpen's been pretty good this year, bringing in veterans like Craig Stammen and Drew Pomeranz, kind of coming back and resurging his career with them so far. Has been pretty good. It's still a big question mark for me. Obviously, they have the best closer in baseball in Kirby Yates. He's been tremendous for them. That's like a rock to have on your team. One of the big things that's kind of with the Cubs is one of the big things they needed when they won a World Series is you need that stud closer. You need that guy at the end of the game. You can bring him in and you're confident that he's going to get that save, which obviously didn't with Chapman, but you know what I mean.
Hey, we got a World Series. It happened.
Exactly. They have a lot of good young pitching. Luis Patino and Chris Paddock obviously are supposed to be two of their studs, and Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. are the second best left-sided infield in the MLB, and they're both in their One's 21 and one's 27, and they have them both locked down for at least, I think, the next like 6 years.
Yeah, so
That's insane.
Tatis is 2024. That'll be his third year of arbitration. And Manny Machado has an option in 2024.
I'm sure they're going to come to a deal with Tatis before then.
Because they've got Tatis, Machado, and I don't know if I heard you mention him, but on the other side of the infield, Eric Hosmer, who's been huge for them this year too. Hosmer, who's been good for them. Yeah. Also, they have got all of them locked down till at least 2024.
Yeah, they've had some amazing contributions so far. I mean, Cronenworth has come out of absolutely nowhere, and he has a 1.2 OPS. Like, what? That is insane. The funniest fact that I have about Fernando Tatis is that his average exit velocity this year is 97 miles an hour. Shit. That is insane. And just to think the White Sox traded him for James Shields, it makes it even that much better.
Could you imagine that White Sox team if they had Tatis,
God.
Yan Moncada, Eloy, Luis Robert? Like, dude, they would be the hottest young team in baseball. I mean, they are. Like, I hear White Sox fans talk about it, and they already are the hottest young team in baseball, it sounds like.
Their daddies.
But, like, they would be unstoppable if they had Tatis on that team.
Oh, for sure. And that Padres team, this Padres team, not that Padres team. That White Sox team is tremendous. They're going to be really good in future years to come, and maybe they'll come out of the Cubs' shadow one of these days. But the year that was supposed to be the White Sox, the Cubs are still the better team in Chicago. Yeah. So, I mean, then back to the Padres team. They still have a few holes they have to fill. They have a couple of question marks in their lineup. I mean, I don't know if Francisco Mejia is really the long-term option at catcher, but and Jerkson Profar, I don't know if he's really the long-term option at second base. But this team, especially with this playoff format, has the potential to make the playoffs. I don't know if they will, but even the fact that they're in shooting distance with the playoffs, with how young their roster is, which how much good young pitching they have, and how much money they have already showed they're willing to go out and spend money to be good. Obviously, with that Manny Machado contract, which is exactly what you want to see. I've trusted basically all their moves. I mean, moving Manuel Margot this offseason for Tommy Pham has been an absolute steal. So I'm excited to see this team in the upcoming years.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing, too, is I think about their division where the Diamondbacks right now, I don't know if this is just a one-year fluke for them right now, but, like, they're at the bottom of the division, especially this year. You've got the Giants, who have kind of been at the bottom of this division since they were basically the evened gods of the 2010s, where it was like every even year, all right, the Giants are going to make the World Series. The only thing that I question with the Padres doesn't even have to do with them. It's the Rockies and the Dodgers, because I think that the Rockies are going to be a team. They've got, like, the Arenado dilemma still kind of is a cloud over them. If they keep him, great. That's going to help them. If they don't, that could end up hurting them. And then with the Dodgers, I know they've got Mookie Betts. I believe they gave him an extension, so he's going to be with the Dodgers. But I don't think they gave an extension to, like, David Price. And with the rest of this Dodger team, are they going to be able to stay together as the years go on, or are they going to break apart? Is then Dave Roberts going to have to leave eventually? Because I know there was, like, talks about, like, him being, he could go for this job or that job. And I was like, really? Like, he's going to leave or get pushed out of the Dodgers already? To where that's the question of the two teams above them right now as the years go on. Are the Dodgers or Rockies going to fall out? And then the Padres just keep getting better with age. Like you said, they got Machado and Tatis and Hosmer locked down until 2024, to where if you're a Padres fan, you have to be excited. Like, you should be excited for what this team is, because it almost reminds me of kind of where I was about 2 years before the Cubs won theirs, where it was like you had a young Javi. Like, I think Javi was in even minor league at that point, but it's like a young Chris Bryant coming up, Addison Russell. He's a scumbag, but at the time we were very hyped about him. You had Javi in the minors, and we had it was basically Theo knew how to get fucking infielders. That's the only reason why we traded Eloy to the White Sox, is because we had no room for him, even on our team at all. But the Padres or Glaber. Okay, Glaber's the one I'm thinking of. Eloy was the outfielder because we didn't want to move on from Schwarber apparently because Schwarber's amazing, but he just can't play the field. But yeah, my point is Padres, you guys should be excited down the line. I'm looking at other teams, Jake, and I'm going to give you some time. This is the last MLB. We'll talk more MLB. You're going to be here on Wednesday for the show. So we'll talk more baseball then. But I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the Yankees. Right now they lead the AL East. You've been saying on Twitter and in our Discord voice chat that you better hope they cancel the season or else the Yankees are taking the ship. I'm just going to give you the floor, give a little bit of time for your New York Yankees and the season they've been having so far.
Yeah, it started off tremendous. They've gone on a little skid recently, but I mean, a skid for the Yankees is losing a series right now. The fans are freaking out because they lost 2 out of 3 in Tropicana, and they're freaking out. I think it was 3-4 actually, but whatever it is. 1 series loss, not too worried about it. The lineup is absolutely disgusting. You hope that Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge can stay healthy. Obviously, Stanton just being put on the DL. I mean, I haven't been this excited about a team. It's funny, but 2017 was the last time is because that team was young. It was vibrant. We were so unexpected. I think we should have won the World Series that year. Obviously, we already went over that with the Astros. Watching Garrett Cole pitch every 5 days, it's like, I mean, it's like a dream come true.
It's a treat.
He's amazing. It's more than a treat. He's like a whole dessert. He is. I mean, I've never had since 2009 CC Sabathia. Like, I haven't had a pitcher where he goes out and I'm like, all right, he's going to give you at least 7 innings of 3 runs or less. Yeah. Like, that is what he does. But the only concern is Aaron Boone is still a terrible manager, and he still leaves pitchers in too long, and he doesn't know how to manage a bullpen. And I mean, the loss on Sunday, Paxton had 6 1/3, and he struck out 11. He lets up a 2-run homer, and he just leaves him back in there. Another home run, tie game, we lose. Like,
hey man, who knows? I mean, some say Joe Madden didn't know how to manage a bullpen, and we still won a World Series. So at least there's hope, right?
Yeah, at some point, talent has to overcome the manager. Like, this lineup is if they stay healthy. I mean, what DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, Aaron Judge. If Gary Sanchez could get his head out of his ass and stop hitting 103,
you didn't mention your boy either.
Oh, Mike Tauchman, of
course.
Mike
Tauchman, you got to mention him.
He's played himself into an everyday outfielder, and he's now the left fielder, which is amazing. And he's 4 for 4 on stolen bases this year, which means he's 10 for 10 on his career in stolen bases. Never been thrown out. He is. The Yankees are just, and it's what you said about the Dodgers. With the Padres, their problem's always going to be the Dodgers are always going to be there because they're that kind of organization that just always churns out MLB players. Like, I feel like every year the Dodgers have some top prospect they're calling up, and he's just another stud. Yeah. And it's not, the Yankees don't have it quite to that level, but the Yankees brought in this reliever like last week, and I was like, who the hell is this? First 2 pitches, 99, 98, 97 two-seam. I'm like, I was like, okay. He looks like a pretty good play. They have such a good scouting system, and they're so well-built organization inside and out. I'm excited about this year. I hope it doesn't get canceled, and as long as the Yankees can stay healthy, I mean, it should be number 28. Well,
and Jake, we're going to end the show with 2 shorties, but 2 goodies. We were going to talk about basketball. We were going to do the battle for the 8th seed, but the more I'm thinking, we were having this nice baseball topic. I didn't want the show to run super long today. So we will, at some point, talk about the 8th seed. It might be either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday as we get some more clarifications on those games. But we're going to do Wet Boys, and then we're going to talk a little bit about college recruiting news, kind of like little updates, because really there's just one I wanted to mention because it has to do with the Illini now. But Jake, let's do Wet Boys, our dampest of dudes, our soggiest of shooters, our mistiest of misses, as I gave one to a WNBA player. So now we got to throw that in there. Misty misses are now a thing. How it works is these are kind of our players of the day from the day before. However, Mondays, it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday award from any sport that you can think of. Usually it's Dave, but Jake will take his for today. I will give my Wet Boy, and then our patrons at patreon.com/MVPvids, silver and above, get to weigh in on theirs. They get to vote, and the patrons give their Wet Boys each and every show. But Jake, I'm going to let you have the floor. Who's your Wet Boy for August 10th, 2020?
It's got to be Damian Lillard, what he did to my 76ers on yesterday on Sunday. I mean, he struggled on Saturday against the Clippers. I mean, didn't shoot that well, only scored 22 points. But my lordy, did he come back in full effect. The Blazers have absolutely no defense. And if they get in the playoffs, they are going to get run over by whatever team they play. But when he dropped 51 and 7 on 57% shooting, I mean, he literally carried that team. CJ McCollum was nowhere to be found. Nurkic was nowhere to be found. And he literally just single-handedly carried that team while the Sixers were putting their best defenders, Josh Richardson and Matisse Thybulle, with Ben Simmons out, obviously, on him constantly. And the way that he's just able to create space so quickly, he's on the rare list of players that I would trade. Like, I would actually want to give up a lot of value to trade for in the league.
Hey, I mean, the Sixers could be in the trade market for somebody.
Okay, next question.
Maybe they go for Damian Lillard, but I don't like the slander against my hot take of the Blazers are going to get the 8th seed and then knock off the Lakers in 7 games. I can't wait for that to happen and be true. But my wet boy, I am going away from basketball. So that means either somebody, whether it's TJ Warren, Luka Doncic, somebody in the NBA is getting snubbed today because Jake, not only am I going away from the wet boys, I almost gave it to Acuna Jr. From the Braves, hitting 3 home runs in a doubleheader yesterday. But then I was thinking, you know what? 3 home runs in 2 games. If it was 1 game, it'd be super impressive. 2 games though, all right, you had 2 chances to get those 3 home runs. I've got to go to golf for mine. And I'm going with Colin Morikawa with his 13 under PGA Championship win, hitting the miracle shot, 4 birdies, an eagle, his first major championship in his pro golfing career. Got to give some love. Going to the greens and the fairways for this wet boy. The first time that we've given it to a PGA golfer. But I had to go there. I had to go there because of the win. If it was anyone like Tiger or Phil, the people that we've seen before, probably wouldn't have gotten a wet boy unless they were breaking the records that they've already set. But had to give it to Colin for his great 13 under performance.
I didn't know
at the PGA Championship.
I didn't know you were opening up Wet Boys to non-sports. I'll know that for next time.
No. Wet Boys is, now that it's on MVP Sports Live, it is across the board. Yeah,
that was a joke with golf.
Okay.
I was just
I was like, man, I was expecting when you said Dame, I was like, man, I was expecting Jake to give some love to baseball. Give me a baseball, wet boy.
We'll get that on Wednesday when Judge homers twice tomorrow against the Braves.
Okay, so we've got then the patron wet boy. And I said somebody's getting a snub. Either TJ Warren, Luka Doncic, somebody is getting snubbed. And I'm sorry, Luka, the patrons have voted for TJ Warren. TJ Warren popping off, or should I say the next reincarnation of the GOAT Michael Jordan, because he has just been the best player of the bubble since the NBA restarted their season in Orlando, has been completely going off. Terrence Ross should no longer be called the supernova of offense. It should now be called, for TJ Warren, the supernova of offense, because he has just been popping off in the bubble. So the patrons, that's who they are voting for. You can vote as well. Patreon.com/MVPvids if you're at the silver or above tier. But Jake, let's end the show. Little shorty, but a goodie. College basketball recruiting news. Mainly this is also because it's from the Chicagoland area. So, of course, you know Ricky's been following a little bit. But Bryce Hopkins, a power forward from Fenwick. This is one, Jake, that I'm just going to take my own because I just want to give a little spiel on. Just kind of,
you got this.
Just kind of like you did for the Yankees. But so he committed to Louisville. And now he's no longer committed to Louisville. He is from the class of 2021, so his senior year will be this year. I am pumped for this because now that opens up his recruitment. And guess who was one of the schools that he was vying to? And that was the Illinois Fighting Illini. Now Illinois is back in the picture. Northwestern's back in the picture. Wisconsin's back in the picture. If this guy commits to Illinois, right now, the only commit or committee to Illinois is, I forget the kid's first name, but his last name is Good. Luke Good from Indiana, who is a shooting guard. Kid could shoot like there's no tomorrow. If we were able to lock down Harper, or not, Bryce. Yeah, Bryce Harper, I think is his name. At the 4, unless I already forgot his name. My tablet, Hopkins, that's it. Bryce Hopkins at the 4. If Adam Miller stays, if Curbelo stays, because I don't know if Adam Miller or Curbelo are going to be one-and-done players at Illinois. I know DeSumu's gone after next year. I know that Kofi Coburn is gone after next year. But, like, if we have Miller, Curbelo, and year 2 for them, Hopkins at the 4, Good out there as a shooter, this could be a team that could be just as good locking down guys from the Chicago area. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The Oak Park kid reopening his recruitment, and let's hope he chooses the Illinois Fighting Illini. Just as long as he doesn't go to Northwestern, I'm happy, because I don't want to see him in a purple jersey. But that's going to do it for the Monday edition of MVP Sports Live. I want to thank Jake for joining me today. Jake will be back on Wednesday. I'm going to have a little bit of a kind of mixed up schedule here. Soapy's going to be on a couple. Jake's going to be on Wednesday. And then I'm hoping to get Brandon Swanson on for a day. Just got to lock down what would basically be the best day for Brandon. But right now, Jake is solidified coming back on Wednesday. But if you're on Twitch, thank you guys for watching us live. If you're on YouTube, you can watch us live, twitch.tv/MVPvids. 4:30 Central Time is when we go live each and every weekday. And if you ever miss a show, they will always be on our YouTube page. Just look for MVP Sports, and that's where you can find them. But Jake, I want to thank you for being on the show today. I hope you enjoyed yourself being on MVP Sports Live for the first time. I cannot wait to have you live on Wednesday. But that's going to do it for us. Games Live is coming up next. And as always, have a good day, everybody.